Your mind holds a doorway that most people never walk through, a doorway that leads to ideas bold enough to shift the direction of your entire life. Dare to Think Beyond is an invitation to access that hidden space, where your thoughts are no longer trapped inside familiar patterns and your imagination is free to reach further than your comfort ever allowed. This audiobook guides you into a level of mental clarity where limits start to lose their grip. You begin to see possibilities that once felt distant, choices that once felt impossible, and strength that once felt out of reach. When your thinking expands, your life follows. Unlock the Power of a Mind That Refuses Limits is designed to help you tap into that expansion, to think with intention, to imagine without restriction, and to step into the version of yourself who leads with vision instead of fear. This is where your new direction begins, in a mind that dares to go further than the world expects. The awakening of a mind begins quietly, in the spaces where you start noticing how often you've accepted thoughts that were never truly yours. Ordinary thinking is often inherited, absorbed, or imitated without question. When you finally step back to examine these patterns, something within you shifts. You begin to sense that your mind holds far more potential than the ideas you've been repeating. This awareness becomes the spark that starts everything. A mind that awakens doesn't settle for surface-level explanations anymore. It becomes curious about why you think the way you do and what beliefs have shaped your decisions. This curiosity opens a door to deeper understanding and greater clarity. As your clarity expands, so does your sense of possibility. Possibility grows into insight. Insight becomes power. Refusing ordinary thinking means refusing to let your thoughts live inside narrow walls. You begin to challenge assumptions you once accepted as fact. You question limitations that once felt permanent. Through this questioning, you create space for different interpretations and wider perspectives. These wider perspectives reshape your inner world. Your inner world reshapes your reality. Awakening requires noticing the automatic thoughts that move through your mind each day. Many of them operate without your awareness, subtly influencing your emotions and actions. When you bring these unconscious patterns into the light, they lose their ability to control you. This act of awareness becomes a form of liberation. Liberation strengthens your sense of self. The mind begins to awaken when you allow yourself to think without fear of judgment. Ordinary thinking is often tied to the desire to fit in, to be accepted, to avoid criticism. When you detach from these pressures, your thoughts become more honest and expansive. Honesty unlocks creativity. Creativity awakens new directions. A mind that refuses ordinary boundaries starts exploring ideas that feel larger than your current environment. It imagines paths you've never walked and choices you've never dared to consider. These explorations broaden your internal landscape. A broader internal landscape expands your identity. Expansion invites transformation. Awakening is not about rejecting the world. It's about seeing it through your own lens instead of leaning on borrowed perceptions. When your thoughts come from your own clarity, they carry strength. Strength turns into confidence. Confidence shapes the way you move through life. The mind evolves when you stop accepting thoughts at face value. Instead, you begin to trace them back to their origins. You ask whether they support who you are becoming or keep you anchored to old versions of yourself. This evaluation sharpens your awareness. Awareness sharpens your choices. Sharper choices create growth. A mind that refuses ordinary thinking engages with life differently. Challenges no longer feel like dead ends, but become openings for deeper understanding. You begin to explore what lies on the other side of discomfort. This exploration reveals hidden resilience. Resilience shifts your relationship with difficulty. Awakening invites you to discover the thoughts you've never given yourself permission to think. These thoughts may feel bold, uncomfortable, or unfamiliar. but they hold the blueprint for your next evolution. As you explore them, your identity expands. Expansion becomes your new baseline. Your baseline becomes your foundation. Refusing ordinary thinking means embracing possibility even when your circumstances haven't caught up. You start choosing thoughts that align with who you want to be rather than who you've been. This alignment increases your inner strength. Inner strength brings direction. Direction turns into momentum. A mind in awakening begins to understand that your thoughts are not mere reactions. They are choices. When you choose thoughts intentionally, your environment slowly reshapes itself to match your mental clarity. This shift feels subtle at first, but becomes more noticeable with time. Noticing reinforces your power. Awakening deepens when you stop fearing unfamiliar ideas. Instead of avoiding them, you lean into them. You explore perspectives that challenge your beliefs and expand your understanding. This exploration breaks the monotony of ordinary thinking. Breaking monotony brings renewal. Renewal strengthens your vision. A mind that refuses ordinary thinking begins to value silence. Within silence, ideas that were buried under noise start rising to the surface. These thoughts carry deeper meaning and insight. As you learn to sit with them, your awareness sharpens. Sharpened awareness leads to clarity. Clarity becomes empowerment. Awakening also involves recognizing that your mind is not static. It grows, adapts, and evolves with every thought you entertain. When you treat your mind as something alive, you begin to nurture it differently. This nurturing strengthens your mental resilience. Resilience becomes mental freedom. Freedom expands your potential. Refusing ordinary thinking often means questioning the limits others never question. When you step outside these inherited boundaries, you gain access to new pathways. These pathways lead to choices that feel aligned with your true nature. Alignment brings peace. Peace enhances your presence. A mind that awakens becomes more aware of the inner conversations shaping its identity. When you shift those conversations from doubt to intention, the energy within you changes. This shift influences your behavior in ways you might not immediately see. Over time, this influence shapes your future. Your future becomes self-created. Awakening requires courage, the courage to let go of familiar thoughts even when they feel safe. Safety can sometimes be a cage disguised as comfort. When you step beyond it, your mind begins to breathe again. This breath expands your inner world. Expanded inner worlds change everything. A mind that refuses ordinary thinking begins to invite ideas that once felt too large for your life. These ideas carry a different kind of energy, an energy that pushes you to grow, stretch, and rise. As you lean into them, your self-belief strengthens. Strengthened self-belief becomes your compass. Awakening the mind means choosing thoughts that elevate you rather than shrink you. When your thinking expands beyond old limits, your life reorganizes itself around that expansion. You begin to see yourself, your potential, and your future differently. Through this shift, you become the thinker who steps beyond the ordinary and into the extraordinary. Shifting your perspective begins with recognizing that your current view is not the only one available. Every thought you hold is shaped by habit, environment, and past experience. When you step back and observe your point of view from the outside, you open space for new interpretations. These new interpretations reveal layers of meaning you couldn't access before. Through this shift, your mind uncovers depth that was always within you. Hidden depths become visible when you stop accepting your first reaction as the full truth. Your initial interpretation is just one angle out of many, often influenced by emotion or conditioning. When you slow down your judgment and allow yourself to explore alternate meanings, your understanding expands. Expanded understanding changes the emotional tone of your experiences. This change reveals wisdom beneath the surface. Perspective shifts happen when you willingly question your assumptions. Assumptions act like filters that color how you see the world. When you remove or adjust them, everything looks different. You start to notice details you once overlooked. These details give your mind access to deeper insight. Insight leads to inner evolution. Unlocking hidden depths requires letting go of rigid thinking. When you hold tightly to one viewpoint, your mind becomes closed to new information. By loosening that grip, you allow fresh ideas to enter. These ideas challenge your old patterns. Challenging old patterns opens new pathways. New pathways shape transformation. Your perspective changes the moment you realize that meaning is not fixed. Every situation can be interpreted in multiple ways depending on how you choose to see it. When you start choosing interpretations that empower rather than limit you, the quality of your experiences improves. This improvement strengthens your sense of control. Control enhances your clarity. Depth becomes accessible when you detach from automatic narratives. Your mind repeats stories based on familiarity, not always truth. When you interrupt these patterns, you create room for new stories to form. These new stories often reveal strengths you didn't know you had. Those strengths become part of your identity. Identity shifts with awareness. Your perspective begins to widen when you stop resisting discomfort. Discomfort often hides lessons that cannot be learned through ease. By leaning into it, you discover the insights it carries. These insights reshape your interpretation of challenges. This new interpretation deepens your understanding. Understanding strengthens resilience. Hidden depths emerge when you learn to look beyond your immediate emotions. Emotions can distort your vision, especially when intense. When you acknowledge them without letting them dictate your perspective, you gain clarity. Clarity allows you to see the truth underneath emotional noise. That truth holds depth. Depth strengthens your inner foundation. Perspective shifts occur when you stop focusing solely on what's visible. Many of life's most important truths lie beneath the obvious. When you start noticing patterns, motivations, and underlying meanings, your perception becomes richer. Rich perception leads to profound understanding. Understanding reveals potential. Unlocking hidden depths means recognizing that your thoughts are not final. They are evolving. When you embrace this fluidity, your mind becomes open to continuous learning. Continuous learning expands your awareness. Expanded awareness helps you see connections you once missed. These connections lead to insight. Your perspective shifts the moment you realize that obstacles can reveal possibilities. What looks like a barrier from one angle may look like an opening from another. When you allow yourself to adjust your viewpoint, new options appear. These options shift your decision-making. Shifted decisions shape your future. Hidden depths become clearer when you view situations through curiosity rather than fear. Curiosity encourages exploration, while fear restricts it. When curiosity guides your perspective, you naturally uncover new layers of understanding. These layers add dimension to your thinking. Dimensional thinking strengthens your mental flexibility. Perspective shifts also require seeing yourself differently. When you stop defining your identity through past limitations, new aspects of your potential rise to the surface. Recognizing these aspects changes how you view your abilities. This change influences your choices. Your choices expand your growth. Unlocking depth happens when you observe your mind without trying to control every thought. When you watch your thoughts with openness, patterns reveal themselves. These patterns show where your perspective has been narrow or repetitive. Once noticed, they lose their power. This loss opens space for new interpretations. Your perspective shifts when you realize that expansion begins internally, not externally. Changing your environment may bring temporary clarity, but shifting your mind brings lasting transformation. When your inner landscape changes, your outer world begins to reflect it. This reflection becomes evidence of growth. Growth deepens your presence. Hidden depths reveal themselves when you question the meaning you attach to experiences. Meaning is created, not assigned. When you start shaping interpretations that support your evolution, your life begins to feel aligned. Alignment gives you strength. Strength fuels clarity. Perspective shifts are easier when you understand that your thoughts are not absolute. They are viewpoints shaped by memory, expectation, and emotion. When you approach them with flexibility, you give yourself permission to evolve. Evolution brings new perspectives. New perspectives unlock depth. Depth is uncovered when you stop viewing life through limitation. Limitations shrink your vision, but possibility expands it. When you think beyond what you've known, your mind enters a realm of new potential. Potential becomes opportunity. Opportunity reshapes your path. Your perspective shifts when you learn to zoom out mentally. Instead of focusing on one detail, you look at the larger picture. This broader view reveals patterns that were invisible before. These patterns teach you what your experiences are trying to show you. Knowledge gained from this view deepens your understanding. Shifting your perspective to unlock hidden depths means embracing the idea that your mind is far more powerful and multidimensional than you once believed. When you allow yourself to think beyond familiar boundaries, you awaken capacities that have been waiting beneath the surface. Through this shift, your inner world expands, creating new space for wisdom, clarity, and transformation. Rewriting your inner dialogue begins by noticing the voice inside your mind that narrates your life. This voice shapes your emotions, your choices, and the way you respond to challenges. When that inner dialogue becomes narrow or filled with doubt, it restricts what you believe is possible. By expanding the tone and direction of this voice, you reshape the way you see yourself. This reshaping opens space for new strength. Strength shifts your inner world. Expansive thought requires shifting from limiting self-talk to supportive, truthful narrative. Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to others, unaware of the damage it creates. When you begin choosing thoughts that guide instead of criticize, your mind softens into clarity. This clarity gives your decisions more stability. Stability brings confidence. Confidence changes your inner environment. Your inner dialogue often forms long before you know how much influence it holds. It's built from experiences, expectations, and memories that may not reflect your present truth. When you rewrite these narratives with expansive thought, you begin freeing yourself from outdated beliefs. Freedom allows new interpretations to take root. New interpretations foster growth. Growth expands your identity. Expansive thinking begins with challenging the phrases you repeat unconsciously. Thoughts such as, "I can't," "I'm not enough," or "this is just who I am," become mental barriers. When you expose these thoughts to awareness, they lose their authority. Without authority, they dissolve. In their place, stronger narratives form. Stronger narratives fuel transformation. Rewriting your inner dialogue doesn't mean forcing unrealistic positivity. It means choosing thoughts that are aligned with possibility rather than limitation. When your mind leans toward what could be, rather than what can't, your emotional landscape changes. This shift opens doors you didn't notice before. Doors lead to opportunities. Opportunities reshape your journey. Your inner dialogue becomes expansive when you give yourself permission to think bigger. Expansive thinking is not about arrogance. It's about recognizing the potential within you that fear often hides. When you acknowledge that potential, your thoughts move with greater freedom. Freedom invites creativity. Creativity brings new paths. Rewriting requires becoming aware of how you speak to yourself in difficult moments. These moments reveal the true tone of your inner voice. If you meet challenge with self-blame, your mind contracts. If you meet it with curiosity, your mind expands. Expansion creates insight. Insight strengthens resilience. Expansive thought transforms the way you process setbacks. Instead of seeing them as reflections of your worth, you begin seeing them as information. This shift turns failure into feedback. Feedback guides your growth. Growth deepens your self-trust. Self-trust empowers your next steps. Your inner dialogue becomes more powerful when you detach from old emotional wounds. These wounds often produce automatic thoughts driven by fear rather than truth. When you examine them with awareness, they lose their grip. Losing this grip creates room for healing. Healing shifts your internal language. Shifted language strengthens your direction. Rewriting your dialogue requires consistency. The old voice may try to return with familiar negativity, but expansive thinking teaches you not to accept it as fact. You replace it with thoughts that align with your expanding identity. Identity evolves with intention. Intention guides your inner narrative. A guided narrative leads to transformation. Your inner voice grows stronger when you stop seeking external validation to confirm your worth. When your self-belief flows from internal conviction rather than outside approval, your thoughts gain stability. Stability dissolves insecurity. Insecurity replaced with certainty reshapes your entire internal world. Expansive thinking thrives when you choose thoughts that match the person you are becoming, not the person you were taught to be. This shift requires releasing outdated labels and limitations. When these labels fall away, your internal dialogue becomes more spacious. Spaciousness supports growth. Growth reveals hidden abilities. Rewriting your dialogue creates alignment between your goals and your mindset. A goal without supportive inner language becomes heavy and difficult to pursue. When your thoughts and intentions match, the path becomes clearer. Clear paths feel natural rather than forced. Natural progress strengthens your momentum. Momentum carries you forward. Your inner dialogue becomes richer when you speak to yourself with respect. Respect doesn't mean ignoring your flaws. It means approaching them with understanding. When you offer yourself understanding, your mind becomes more cooperative. Cooperation leads to balance. Balance enhances clarity. Expansive thought gives your inner world the room it needs to evolve. Instead of clinging to the comfort of familiar thinking, you open yourself to possibility. Possibility invites new interpretations of your strengths. These interpretations add dimension to your identity. Dimensional identity empowers your vision. Rewriting your inner dialogue means being mindful of the questions you ask yourself. Questions guide your focus, and your focus shapes your reality. When you ask empowering questions, your mind begins searching for solutions instead of problems. Solutions shift your emotional state. That shift strengthens your inner direction. Your dialogue expands when you stop defining yourself through past versions of who you were. The past offers lessons, not final identities. When you detach from old definitions, your thoughts become more flexible. Flexibility encourages growth. Growth reveals new layers of self-awareness. Awareness deepens your presence. Expansive thinking transforms your relationship with challenges. Instead of seeing them as threats, you begin viewing them as opportunities to practice your new inner voice. This shift creates a sense of internal mastery. Internal mastery strengthens your discipline. Discipline shapes your path forward. Rewriting your inner dialogue helps you see possibilities where you once saw limits. When you choose thoughts that support your direction, your internal world becomes aligned with your ambitions. This alignment radiates outward in your behavior. Behavior influenced by clarity becomes intentional. Intention redefines your future. Rewriting your inner dialogue with expansive thought means creating an internal environment where your potential is nurtured rather than restricted. When your mind becomes a space of support rather than doubt, you unlock capacities that were hidden behind old narratives. Through this shift, you evolve into someone who thinks with strength, speaks with conviction, and acts from clarity. Strength often begins to reveal itself when you explore thoughts that stretch beyond what you've grown used to. Familiar ideas feel safe because they are predictable, but they rarely push you toward growth. When you're willing to step into concepts that challenge your comfort, a new layer of inner power begins to rise. This shift doesn't come from force, it comes from curiosity. Curiosity awakens potential. Potential expands your vision. Your strongest insights tend to emerge when you move past the boundaries of your usual thinking. Familiar ideas operate like walls, keeping you within the limits of what you already understand. When you look beyond those walls, you discover possibilities hidden from your old perspective. These possibilities spark new forms of strength. Strength grows through exploration. Exploration widens your awareness. Beyond familiar ideas lies a realm where your creativity has room to breathe. When you let your imagination explore new pathways, you activate parts of your mind that were previously untouched. This mental expansion gives you access to perspectives you didn't know existed. These perspectives carry layers of wisdom. Wisdom broadens your identity. Identity grows through discovery. Strength emerges when you stop relying on the thinking that has kept you in the same patterns. Familiar thoughts repeat, pulling you into cycles that feel comfortable but stagnant. When you introduce yourself to thoughts that feel larger, deeper, or more challenging, your internal landscape begins to shift. This shift brings clarity. Clarity reveals new directions. Direction strengthens your sense of purpose. Discovering strength requires releasing the idea that everything meaningful must feel familiar. Some of your greatest insights will feel strange at first because they don't match the patterns you've known. Embracing this unfamiliarity opens the door to transformation. Transformation thrives in openness. Openness broadens your emotional capacity. Capacity enhances your resilience. Unfamiliar ideas often highlight strengths you didn't realize you had. They show you where your mind has been limited by routine thinking. When you allow yourself to explore perspectives beyond those limits, you unlock aspects of your intelligence that were never given space to grow. This unlocking builds inner power. Inner power creates stability. Stability supports growth. Strength is found when you challenge your mental habits. Habits form from repetition, not truth. By questioning why you think the way you do, you free yourself from patterns that no longer serve your evolution. This questioning encourages deeper reflection. Reflection reveals hidden insight. Insight becomes the foundation of new thinking. Beyond familiar ideas lies the strength of originality. When you stop echoing the same thoughts you've carried for years, your mind generates ideas that feel fresh and alive. These ideas carry a unique quality because they come from your expanded awareness. Expanded awareness enhances your creativity. Creativity builds confidence. Confidence reinforces your presence. Your mind discovers strength when you allow yourself to entertain concepts that disrupt your usual comfort. Discomfort often acts as a gateway to inner expansion. When you explore what lies on the other side of that discomfort, your thinking deepens. Deepened thinking leads to self-understanding. Self-understanding strengthens your identity. The strength you find beyond familiar ideas comes from embracing uncertainty. Familiar thoughts feel certain, but they limit your growth. When you accept that new ideas may not be immediately clear, you give yourself permission to evolve. This acceptance builds courage. Courage fuels exploration. Exploration opens doors. Strength grows when you recognize that your current beliefs are not final. Your mind is designed to evolve, adapt, and expand beyond what you currently know. When you step into this fluidity, familiar thoughts loosen their grip. In their place, new insights rise. These insights strengthen your awareness. Awareness shapes your path. Beyond familiar ideas lies a deeper understanding of how your mind works. When you explore these depths, you learn how your patterns have shaped your choices. This self-awareness helps you redirect your thinking toward empowerment rather than limitation. Empowerment becomes part of your inner structure. Structure strengthens your emotional stability. Strength appears when you explore perspectives that make you rethink your assumptions. Assumptions hold power only when they go unchallenged. By examining them with openness, you reclaim control over your thoughts. Reclaimed control deepens your confidence. Confidence shapes your behavior. Behavior reinforces your growth. Unfamiliar ideas help you see yourself differently. They reveal gaps in your thinking that you never noticed and strengths that you never acknowledged. When you integrate these discoveries, your identity becomes more layered and resilient. This layering creates depth. Depth generates inner stability. Stability strengthens presence. Strength is discovered when your mind begins to value exploration more than predictability. Predictability keeps you comfortable but rarely allows growth. Exploration involves stepping into mental territory that feels new but purposeful. This journey expands your sense of possibility. Possibility fuels ambition. Ambition energizes your actions. Beyond familiar ideas lies the strength of adaptability. When you expose your mind to new concepts, you learn to adjust your thinking naturally. This adaptability becomes a powerful asset, especially during challenging times. It teaches you to respond with fluidity rather than resistance. Fluidity brings clarity. Clarity strengthens decision-making. Strength arises when you follow thoughts that stretch your imagination. Imagination widens your vision far beyond what routine thinking allows. When you explore these expanded visions, you connect with parts of yourself that traditional thinking cannot reach. This connection enhances your inner power. Inner power influences your choices. Choices determine your path. Your mind becomes stronger when you recognize that thinking beyond the familiar is not risky but necessary. New ideas introduce possibilities that elevate your thinking. When you embrace these possibilities, your identity grows in ways you couldn't have predicted. Growth deepens your self-belief. Self-belief strengthens your behavior. Unfamiliar ideas often carry the insights you've been searching for. They show you the potential hidden underneath your doubts and fears. When you allow these ideas to take root, they change the direction of your inner dialogue. This change evolves your mindset. Evolved mindsets create transformed lives. Transformation becomes natural. Discovering the strength found beyond familiar ideas means allowing your mind to explore territories that feel wider, deeper, and more expansive than the thoughts you've lived with. When you embrace this expansion, you unlock strengths that were waiting beneath the surface. Through this openness, your thinking evolves, your confidence grows, and your inner world expands into its fullest expression. Imagination becomes a guiding force the moment you allow it to move freely, without the restrictions of past experiences. Limitations grow from repeated patterns, but imagination thrives in open mental territory. When you let your mind explore possibilities beyond what you've known, new pathways begin to form inside you. These pathways lead you toward ideas that stretch your comfort zone. Stretching your comfort zone ignites growth. Growth reshapes your potential. Allowing imagination to lead requires trusting the images and ideas that arise from within. These thoughts may not match your current reality, yet they carry the blueprint for what you can become. When you follow these inner visions, you discover layers of strength you didn't see before. This discovery shifts your internal narrative. The shift expands your mindset. Expanded mindsets dissolve limits. Your imagination offers perspectives untouched by fear. Fear restricts, while imagination opens. When you let your mind wander beyond the boundaries of expectation, you begin to see possibilities you once dismissed. These possibilities feel alive because they come from an unrestricted source. That source connects you with your inner creativity. Creativity unlocks direction. Direction overcomes limitation. Imagination shows you versions of yourself that your present circumstances cannot reflect. When you visualize your potential, you create a mental space that encourages growth rather than confinement. This mental vision influences your emotions, guiding them toward hope instead of doubt. Hope strengthens your focus. Focus strengthens your progress. Progress shifts your reality. Letting imagination lead means embracing ideas that feel larger than your environment. These ideas may appear unrealistic at first, but they carry the energy needed to push you beyond stagnation. When you hold these visions with intention, they begin to reshape your inner world. This reshaping builds courage. Courage fuels your next steps. Stepping forward reshapes your future. Imagination reveals possibilities that logic cannot always see. Logic relies on what has been, while imagination explores what could be. When you balance both, you create a realistic path toward expansion. This combination strengthens your decision-making. Decision-making influenced by vision feels purposeful. Purposeful choices break limitations. Your imagination becomes a powerful guide when you stop censoring your thoughts. Self-censorship shrinks your ideas before they have the chance to grow. By letting your imagination express itself fully, you create a mental environment where new concepts can thrive. Thriving concepts generate momentum. Momentum transforms your perspective. Transformation pushes you past limits. Imagination opens doors to internal landscapes where possibility is endless. When you explore these landscapes, you begin noticing desires and ambitions that you once ignored. Acknowledging these desires reveals the depth of your inner world. This depth inspires action. Action fueled by inspiration carries strength. Strength dismantles limitation. Letting imagination lead means stepping into uncertainty with curiosity rather than fear. Curiosity allows you to explore unfamiliar thoughts without shutting them down. This exploration uncovers insights that ordinary thinking cannot reach. These insights foster mental expansion. Expansion fuels self-discovery. Self-discovery moves you beyond boundaries. Imagination helps you reinterpret obstacles through a new lens. Instead of seeing them as final, you begin seeing routes around them or through them. This shift changes your emotional response to difficulty. Difficulty becomes less threatening and more informational. Information strengthens clarity. Clarity removes limitations. Your imagination becomes a powerful tool when you trust its ability to guide you. This trust is built by noticing how often imaginative visions align with your potential. When you follow these visions, your actions become more intentional. Intentional actions create momentum. Momentum pushes you beyond mental barriers. Letting imagination lead requires patience. The inner images you see may take time to unfold in reality, but they prepare your mind for expansion long before the world catches up. This preparation strengthens your mental resilience. Resilience supports persistence. Persistence destroys limitation. Limitation loses power. Imagination carries the ability to reshape your emotional state. When you imagine a version of yourself who is stronger, wiser, and more capable, your mind begins aligning with that image. This alignment influences your behavior in subtle ways. Behavior guided by inner vision becomes consistent. Consistency builds transformation. Transformation expands possibility. Your imagination reveals paths you've never walked because it operates without the constraints of habit. Habit is rooted in repetition, but imagination is rooted in innovation. When innovation leads your thoughts, your life moves in new directions. New directions reveal potential. Potential inspires confidence. Confidence lowers limitations. Letting imagination guide you means allowing yourself to see beyond the immediate. What is in front of you is only a fragment of what your future can hold. When you imagine greater outcomes, your choices begin to support those outcomes. These choices shape your identity. Identity evolves with possibility. Possibility erases limitation. Imagination enables you to reframe experiences that once felt heavy. When you mentally reconstruct them from a place of creativity, you see new meaning in past events. This new meaning liberates you emotionally. Emotional liberation strengthens your inner freedom. Freedom widens your path. Wider paths diminish limits. Your imagination becomes a compass pointing toward your highest potential. When you envision a life aligned with your strengths, your mind begins working toward that alignment. This quiet, internal work influences your habits. Habits guided by imagination create change. Change expands your direction. Direction brings clarity. Letting imagination lead means trusting the visions that challenge your current identity. These visions introduce you to versions of yourself you haven't embodied yet. When you welcome them, your identity begins transforming from the inside out. Internal transformation builds external change. Change reveals new levels of possibility. Possibility removes limits. Imagination helps you escape the boundaries created by past conditioning. When you picture something beyond what you've known, you stretch the edges of your consciousness. This stretching strengthens your mind's flexibility. Flexible minds adapt to new opportunities easily. Adaptation creates growth. Growth breaks limitations. Letting your imagination lead you past limitations means embracing the inner visions that invite expansion, even when they feel unfamiliar. When you allow these visions to influence your thinking, your inner world opens in ways that reshape your path. Through imagination, you move beyond the limits of your past and step toward the future your potential is ready to create. A mental landscape free from old restrictions begins with the understanding that your mind has been shaped by past environments, beliefs, and experiences that may no longer serve you. These internal structures form invisible boundaries that limit how far your thoughts can travel. When you start clearing this inner terrain, you create space for new ideas to grow. This clearing becomes an act of personal liberation. Liberation expands your thinking. Expanded thinking transforms your identity. Old restrictions often hide within familiar thoughts that repeat without being questioned. These thoughts operate automatically, reinforcing limitations you may not even notice. When you bring awareness to them, their influence weakens. Weakening these patterns opens pathways to new interpretations. New interpretations build mental flexibility. Flexibility widens your inner world. A free mental landscape is built by removing the weight of assumptions that once defined your choices. Assumptions carry the influence of old fears and expectations, shaping your thinking more than you realize. When you challenge them, you break their control. Breaking their control releases mental energy. Released mental energy fuels renewal. Renewal supports clarity. Your mind becomes unrestrained when you allow yourself to think without referencing past mistakes. Mistakes create shadows that linger in memory, but they don't define your potential. When you detach your thoughts from these old shadows, your mental space brightens. Brightened space enhances creativity. Creativity expands inner strength. Strength dissolves restriction. A renewed mental landscape requires letting go of inherited limitations. Many beliefs were given to you by people who couldn't see beyond their own fears. When you separate your thinking from these inherited constraints, you reconnect with your personal truth. This reconnection empowers your inner voice. Empowered inner voices shape new realities. New realities redefine your path. Freedom in thought emerges when you stop replaying outdated narratives. These narratives may have once protected you, but now they confine your progress. When you replace them with more supportive internal stories, your thinking evolves. Evolved thinking amplifies self-awareness. Awareness strengthens your direction. Direction breaks old barriers. Your mental space expands when you start trusting your ability to think independently. Old restrictions often stem from doubt in your own judgment. When you build confidence in your decisions, your inner world becomes stronger. Strength supports initiative. Initiative opens opportunities. Opportunities widen perspective. A free mental landscape grows through consistent reflection. Reflection allows you to see which thoughts serve you and which ones limit you. When you gently release the restrictive ones, your mind becomes lighter. This lightness encourages new ideas to flow. Flow nurtures growth. Growth deepens your inner foundation. Old restrictions weaken when you stop defining yourself through past versions of who you were. Those versions reflected your experience at that time, not your full potential. When you detach from these outdated identities, your mind gains room to expand. Expansion reveals hidden capabilities. Capabilities strengthen confidence. Confidence reshapes your vision. A liberated mindset develops when you allow yourself to step outside the boundaries of familiarity. Familiar thoughts feel safe, but they rarely move you forward. When you explore beyond them, your mental landscape opens into unexplored territory. This openness creates possibility. Possibility brings inspiration. Inspiration fuels change. Your mind becomes free when you stop operating on beliefs you never examined. Many of these beliefs limit what you think you can achieve. When you analyze them with clarity, their foundation weakens. A weakened foundation collapses easily. Collapse creates space. Space invites new thought. Building a mental landscape without restrictions involves embracing new ways of thinking, even when they challenge your comfort. Comfort can trap your mind in predictable patterns. When you stretch beyond this comfort, new mental pathways form. These pathways create strength. Strength encourages exploration. Exploration dismantles limits. Freedom in your thinking emerges when you stop allowing fear to dictate your mental boundaries. Fear shrinks your world by convincing you to stay small. When you confront it with awareness, its influence fades. Faded fear opens room for courage. Courage shifts your internal narrative. Shifted narratives support growth. A landscape free from old restrictions also requires allowing yourself to imagine without guilt. Guilt compresses your creativity and restricts your ideas before they form. When you release guilt, imagination gains freedom. This freedom unlocks new visions. Visions shape purpose. Purpose expands your inner world. Your mental space clears when you stop carrying the emotional weight of past limitations. These emotional imprints shape how you think today. When you acknowledge them and gently let them go, your inner environment becomes calmer. Calmness enhances clarity. Clarity supports mental strength. Strength widens possibility. Building a free mental landscape means embracing a mindset that welcomes new perspectives. When you expose yourself to ideas that differ from your own, your thinking becomes more adaptable. Adaptability strengthens emotional maturity. Emotional maturity enhances decision-making. Decision-making opens new paths. Old restrictions dissolve when you stop trying to fit into expectations that no longer reflect your values. Expectations placed by others often confine your thinking without your awareness. When you choose your own direction, your thoughts expand naturally. Expansion builds self-trust. Self-trust fuels inner freedom. A liberated mind evolves when you practice allowing thoughts to flow without immediate judgment. Judgment tightens your internal space, but acceptance widens it. When you replace judgment with observation, your internal landscape becomes fluid. Fluid thinking encourages creativity. Creativity reveals new insights. Your mental environment becomes unrestricted when you let go of the need for perfection. Perfection traps your mind in narrow expectations and constant self-critique. When you release it, your thoughts gain room to breathe. Breathing space expands imagination. Imagination strengthens your internal power. Power disrupts limitation. Building a mental landscape free from old restrictions means transforming your inner world into a place where thoughts move freely, ideas grow without fear, and your identity evolves without constraint. When you clear these internal barriers, you give yourself permission to think expansively, live boldly, and rise into the fullest expression of your potential. A vision that outgrows your current reality begins with imagining a life larger than the one you see today. This vision is not limited by present circumstances, because it rises from a deeper part of your mind that sees potential before evidence. When you allow this inner image to expand freely, it becomes a guiding force, a force that moves you beyond what feels normal. This movement opens new mental space. New space invites transformation. Your vision becomes powerful when it reflects the person you want to become rather than the person you've been. Many people shape their dreams according to their history, but growth requires envisioning beyond memory. When you create a future based on possibility instead of habit, your identity begins to stretch. This stretching reveals strengths you didn't realize you held. Strength shapes ambition. Ambition fuels evolution. Creating a vision requires honesty about what you truly desire. Often, your deepest dreams remain hidden beneath fear, expectation, or self-doubt. When you uncover them without judgment, you reconnect with your authentic direction. This direction carries an energy that feels unmistakable. That energy becomes momentum. Momentum pushes your reality forward. A vision that outgrows your present reality emerges when you stop limiting your goals to what feels comfortable. Comfort may protect your emotions, but it restricts your expansion. When you choose to dream beyond comfort, you activate a part of your mind designed for growth. This activation shifts your inner world. Shifted inner worlds build stronger futures. Strong futures invite action. Your vision becomes clearer as you let go of ideas that restrict your imagination. Old beliefs often shrink your dreams before they have a chance to form. When you question these beliefs, you create mental freedom. Freedom invites possibility. Possibility widens your direction. Wider direction shapes new reality. A vision grows when you allow yourself to see your life from a higher perspective. Instead of viewing challenges as final, you begin seeing them as stepping stones. This shift in viewpoint changes how you approach your goals. Approach becomes purposeful. Purpose strengthens your internal foundation. Foundation supports long-term growth. Your vision expands when you imagine yourself succeeding in environments you've never experienced. These imagined scenarios help you grow into the person capable of achieving them. When you consistently see this version of yourself, your mind begins aligning with it. Alignment influences decisions. Decisions shape destiny. Destiny becomes self-created. Creating a vision that surpasses your current reality means giving yourself permission to desire more. Many people suppress their larger dreams because they fear disappointment. But when you embrace your desires fully, you ignite a deeper motivation within. This motivation sharpens your focus. Focus strengthens your commitment. Commitment pushes you past limitations. Your vision becomes transformative when it carries emotional meaning. A dream without emotional connection loses strength quickly. When your vision touches something within you, your values, your identity, your purpose, it gains a force that sustains itself. This force fuels consistency. Consistency shapes progress. Progress builds reality. A vision grows stronger when you detach it from external approval. When you seek validation, your dreams shrink to fit other people's expectations. When you dream for yourself, your imagination expands. Expansion creates originality. Originality strengthens identity. Identity supports bold choices. Your vision outgrows your reality when you continuously upgrade it. As you evolve, your dreams must evolve with you. Stagnant visions lose their fire, but renewed visions ignite new levels of ambition. This renewal reinforces your direction. Direction reveals new paths. Paths shape your journey. A powerful vision also emerges from silence. In quiet moments, your mind reveals desires that noise often hides. When you listen closely, you uncover the deeper layers of your aspirations. These layers add dimension to your goals. Dimension strengthens clarity. Clarity enhances your purpose. Your vision expands when you stop basing your future on your past performance. Growth requires imagining outcomes beyond anything you've previously achieved. When you allow your vision to exceed your history, you break internal barriers. Breaking barriers builds confidence. Confidence amplifies possibility. Possibility strengthens belief. Creating a vision that outgrows your present world requires welcoming unknown potential. The unknown often feels intimidating, but within it lies innovation. When you open yourself to this mystery, your imagination becomes more fluid. Fluid thinking generates breakthroughs. Breakthroughs spark transformation. Transformation shifts reality. Your vision becomes more powerful when you recognize that your mind is capable of holding a future far brighter than your current circumstances. When you nurture this future in your thoughts, you begin building it internally long before it exists externally. This internal construction creates direction. Direction accelerates growth. Growth reveals capability. A vision outgrows your reality when you let yourself think in terms of expansion rather than survival. Survival thinking keeps your dreams small, but expansion thinking pushes them beyond your present limits. When you adopt this mindset, your goals become rooted in possibility. Possibility cultivates optimism. Optimism fuels endurance. Your vision deepens when you allow yourself to imagine without interruption. Interruptions from doubt or fear shrink the mental space needed for imagination to flourish. When you quiet these interruptions, your vision becomes clearer. Clear visions guide action. Guided action builds progress. Progress shifts your reality. A future beyond your current experience takes shape when you consistently picture it. Repetition strengthens belief, and belief shapes behavior. When your behavior aligns with your vision, your external world begins to mirror your internal one. This mirroring confirms your growth. Growth multiplies potential. Potential widens opportunity. Your vision grows when you stop asking what is realistic and start asking what aligns with your purpose. Realism often limits your imagination, while purpose expands it. When your vision reflects your authentic direction, it becomes a powerful guiding force. This force reshapes your decisions. Decisions reshape your life. Life becomes self-designed. Creating a vision that outgrows your current reality means allowing your imagination to explore without restriction, your desires to reveal themselves without fear, and your mind to build a future that honors your highest potential. When your vision becomes larger than your present world, your actions begin rising to meet it, and your reality shifts accordingly. Stepping into a life shaped by bold, boundless thinking begins with trusting your mind's ability to imagine beyond conventional limits. This trust forms the foundation of a freer way of living. When your thoughts are no longer confined by old expectations, your choices shift naturally. Each choice begins carrying a sense of purpose that wasn't present before. Purpose expands your horizons. Expanded horizons shape a new identity. Boundless thinking invites you to question what you once believed was unreachable. Many limitations exist only because they have never been examined closely. When you challenge these assumptions, you discover how much of your thinking was shaped by habit rather than truth. This discovery breaks mental barriers. Broken barriers reveal potential. Potential encourages exploration. A bold mind doesn't wait for permission to grow. It moves into new territory with curiosity rather than hesitation. When you give yourself permission to pursue ideas that feel larger than your environment, you step into a mindset rooted in opportunity. Opportunity reveals hidden paths. Hidden paths provide direction. Direction strengthens vision. Boundless thinking requires embracing uncertainty with openness. Instead of avoiding the unknown, You choose to walk toward it with confidence in your inner growth. This willingness transforms fear into possibility. Possibility deepens your imagination. A deep imagination strengthens your perspective. Perspective shapes your future. Your life becomes more expansive when you allow bold thoughts to influence your actions. These thoughts encourage you to take steps that challenge your comfort and expand your capabilities. As you move with greater intention, you begin carving out a reality that reflects your inner strength. This carving builds momentum. Momentum leads to transformation. Transformation supports new beginnings. Stepping into a life guided by a limitless mindset means learning to listen to your inner voice without suppression. This voice carries insights untouched by external pressure. When you trust it, your decisions become more aligned with your authentic direction. Alignment brings calm certainty. Calm certainty strengthens confidence. Confidence fuels progress. Boundless thinking thrives when you stop shrinking your ideas to match your surroundings. Instead, you allow your vision to expand freely and wait for the world to adjust to it. This shift in approach empowers your personal growth. Empowered growth becomes magnetic. Magnetic energy draws new opportunities. Opportunities refine your purpose. A bold mind leads you to explore possibilities hidden behind fear. These possibilities reveal themselves only when you refuse to let fear dictate your choices. When you walk through fear with awareness, you unlock a new level of inner resilience. Resilience supports ambition. Ambition fuels creativity. Creativity expands your path. Boundless thinking encourages you to redefine your relationship with challenge. Instead of resisting difficulty, you see it as a doorway to greater understanding. Through this shift, challenges become opportunities for deeper insight. Insight shapes perspective. Perspective enhances clarity. Clarity strengthens direction. A life guided by limitless thought emerges when you cultivate the habit of imagining solutions instead of problems. This mental shift transforms how you respond to your environment. Your responses become grounded, intentional, and aligned with your highest vision. Alignment sharpens focus. Focus accelerates progress. Progress changes your reality. Bold thinking helps you break away from expectations that confine your potential. These expectations often come from others who never outgrew their own boundaries. When you free yourself from them, your thoughts become more authentic. Authenticity energizes your spirit. Energized spirit enhances your courage. Courage widens your path. Your life begins to transform when your thoughts start honoring your capabilities instead of your fears. This shift empowers your imagination to lead with strength rather than hesitation. Strong imagination forms powerful insights. These insights guide your choices. Choices influence your path. Path shapes your evolution. Boundless thinking allows your mind to see beyond immediate limitations. When you stop focusing solely on what is in front of you, you begin envisioning where you can go. This expanded vision becomes your compass. A strong compass directs your behavior. Behavior aligned with vision builds momentum. Momentum creates change. A bold mindset teaches you to see yourself as someone capable of rising beyond your present circumstances. This self-view influences the quality of your thoughts. When your thoughts expand, your actions follow. Actions aligned with potential create a reality that reflects growth. Growth deepens purpose. Purpose strengthens identity. Your life becomes guided by boundless thinking when you give yourself permission to dream without restriction. These dreams reveal desires you've ignored or buried. When you honor them, your inner world becomes more alive. This inner aliveness shapes your decisions. Decisions shape your path. Your path shapes your destiny. Bold thinking encourages you to let go of the narratives that once held you back. These narratives lose power when you choose thoughts that support your evolution. New narratives form naturally as you step into greater clarity. Clarity sharpens your intentions. Intentions guide your actions. Actions shape transformation. Stepping into a limitless mindset means allowing yourself to grow out of identities that no longer fit you. When you shed these old identities, your mind becomes spacious. Spaciousness nurtures creativity. Creativity fuels growth. Growth strengthens your ability to think expansively. A life shaped by bold thinking emerges when you consistently choose thoughts that uplift rather than diminish you. These thoughts strengthen your emotional state and widen your mental landscape. As your internal world expands, your external life begins reflecting that expansion. Reflection confirms progress. Progress inspires further growth. Boundless thinking helps you embrace opportunities that once felt intimidating. When your mind believes in possibility, your steps carry greater courage. Courage encourages bold decisions. Bold decisions alter your direction. Altered direction leads to new levels of self-discovery. Stepping into a life guided by bold, boundless thinking means trusting the power of your imagination, believing in the potential that lives beneath your doubts, and allowing yourself to grow beyond every limitation you once accepted. When your thoughts expand, your reality follows, creating a life that reflects the fullness of who you are becoming. Thinking beyond your limits is not a single moment, it's a way of living. This journey has shown you how powerful your mind becomes when you stop accepting boundaries as truth and begin exploring the possibilities hidden behind them. Every expanded thought, every shift in perspective, and every vision you allowed yourself to imagine has reshaped the landscape of your inner world. Carry this forward. Let your thoughts be wider than your circumstances and bolder than your fears. When your mind moves beyond the familiar, your life follows with new strength, new direction, and new purpose. The path ahead belongs to the version of you who dares to imagine more, choose more, and become more. You now hold the power to think beyond anything that once contained you. Use it to build the life only you can envision.